State Representative Adam Byrd, welcome back to Message from the House.
It is an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
How's your holiday been, sir?
It's been pretty good, and although, it's still early in December, so there's plenty left to celebrate.
Wonderful. Love to hear that. We are here to talk about name, image, and likeness, or NIL, in high school sports. That's not something that I thought would be, here in the state and being talked about, but here we are. I want to ask, all of this has transpired very quickly, I would say in the last 2 weeks. What are your thoughts on the OHSAA's vote to allow NIL deals in high school sports?
Well, I think it's really sad. And, OHSAA asked its member schools to vote yes on this change. And when you look at the vote, there were several hundred schools that abstained. And they abstained, I believe, because they didn't want to vote yes. And yet they were asked to vote yes by OHSAA, and many of those who did vote yes held their nose while doing it. They don't like that. And there's, it's not best for kids. And we should be protecting our kids. We should let the kids be kids. And it's rife with problems.
Why do you think they voted yes? Do you think the courts had anything to do, the pressure, to take control of that issue? Why do you think they voted yes?
Well, that's absolutely the reason why they did that. They were convinced to do so because of a temporary restraining order from one judge in one county in the state of Ohio. And, I think as a legislature, we should have a problem with that. And, we are a co-equal branch of government. We should have a say. We should weigh in and say, and, maybe I can't convince 50 of my colleagues in the House and 17 of my colleagues in the Senate to vote yes. Maybe I cannot do that, but I'm going to try. And I think that if successful, that what we do should be way more important than what one county level judge does here in Franklin County. And that's kind of where I'm at, and I really don't think that OHSAA should have made this move based on one judge in one county. If the Ohio Supreme Court makes a ruling in this area, okay, now I sit up and take a different look at it. High school sports should be about teaching students fitness, leadership, discipline, character, communication skills. And we should be seeing, and I think we have for many years in Ohio, we should be seeing athletics as an extension of the classroom. And we provide these athletic experiences to students at cost, by the way, to the taxpayer. We provide them because we see the holistic approach to education and that these are important educational learning experiences for our students. And so I think we've done well. And those who have been fortunate enough to participate in an athletic event as a 7th through 12th student, they've been benefited because of that. And it's made them a better person. It's made them a better employee someday because, you learn that as a member of a team, you learn that you have to set your goals and personal desires to the side and put the team's focus and the team's mission at the forefront. That's why I'm willing to sit on the bench. That's why I'm willing to root for the team. That's really why I'm willing to go to practice and be on the scout team, because I see the team's mission is bigger than my mission. And that's an important learning experience that kids get. And so, we provide stadiums, weight rooms at taxpayer expense, because we see it as important. And if we're going to go down this path, that's not the purpose of taxpayer money being spent on these facilities. And I think it's really important that we allow kids to be kids and we protect students from the pressures that will now come. There's enough pressures on students. And if we go down this path, the pressure will become greater. And we've already seen the impact that pressure on athletes and pressure on NIL recipients has had at the college level. And it is a well-known study that has shown that the number 2 cause of death among college athletes in America is suicide. Why is that? We should be taking a look at that. I think the pressure is real, and it's great. And in many ways, we have allowed NIL recipients to be social influencers, and that's not healthy to me for society and for students to be given that much responsibility at such a young age.
Lots of pressure and lots to think about with all of that, bringing business into sports for sure. What are you hearing from parents, coaches, school administrators regarding this?
I've talked to parents. I've talked to school board members. I've talked to coaches. I've talked to superintendents. They don't like this. They don't want this. This is not where Ohio wants to be. Now, I know that some people are going to say it's inevitable. It's inevitable. We should just do this because it's inevitable. We should just do this because, 40 some other states do it. Well, I'm doing some research on that right now. And my research is not concluded, but I'm doing some research on that because when I hear people say, 40 other states are doing it, or 40 some other states are doing it, are they doing it because their state legislature has promoted it, allowed it, required it, specifically prohibited it, or did we just allow the schools to decide? And by the way, when we let OHSAA decide, that's the same as letting the schools decide because OHSAA is a creation of our schools. Every school in Ohio that's a member joins by resolution, school board approved resolution every single year. So it's a creation of member schools. And what are the member schools? They're a creation of the General Assembly in the state of Ohio. And so, we're just going to do this because everybody else is doing it. Well, I want to find out, and I'm still researching on this, why are other schools doing it? Has their state legislature specifically allowed it?
And I want to ask, with the pushback of, we could lose students to other states if we don't do this and XYZ, I guess just talk about the strength of Ohio's education system as a whole and the value in that.
You're telling me that we might lose students to other high school students to other states over this? I say, okay. It's not important to me that students would leave the state of Ohio. I'm talking 7 through 12 students. Now, I get NIL at the college level, and, we're talking billion-dollar business here for universities and for TV contracts with ESPN and so forth. Okay, I can hold my nose and say yes to that. I don't like it. And you see, by the way, that it is a total arms race when it comes to NIL in college. You see that people like Lane Kiffin, who have recently left Ole Miss to go to LSU. Now we hear, he's getting this pay raise and he's getting this. You know what else he's getting? He has been assured by LSU that they will have the highest NIL budget in the nation. Okay. Now, going down this path, you see that the University of Michigan quarterback has already declared that he's going to enter the transfer portal. What school is he going to go to? Is he going to go to the school that offers the best program in his degree? Is he going to go to the school that offers him the best learning experiences, the best growth opportunities, the best things that he needs to be a contributor to society so that he can be the best person of himself that he can be? No. He's going to wait and see what is offered, and he's going to go to whoever the highest bidder is. And so, it's become pretty upsetting to see the direction that college athletics have gone because of NIL. And I voted yes on this a couple of years ago, but I didn't like it. And I did it because I understood that we're in a billion-dollar competition across the nation.
And, even just looking at this football season specifically, there have been so many coach firings and transfers. And, I think you bring up a good point that there is a lot more pressure to win and succeed because there are billions of dollars on the lines for these kids to look elsewhere and move on. So that is a great point. I want to talk about kind of the effect on the schools, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking, I was a high school athlete. I'm thinking about, how the transferring is going to work and, you know, adjusting to a new environment as a high school kid. The transfer rules that Ohio already has, right? I think you have to sit out a year or things like that. So just from a school standpoint and enrollment and things like that, how does this impact that?
You bring up another important concern, and that is that the new OHSAA bylaw forbids schools to be involved in this. Okay, they're not coordinating this effort. They're not doing that. Okay, that's fine, but it also says that you cannot recruit. It's already said that for years. Now, I don't believe that there's anybody out there involved in schools in Ohio that doesn't think that recruiting is happening anyway. And yet there's a law against that. There's a bylaw in OHSAA against that. So I don't think that this is an issue that we can control, that OHSAA will be able to control. And I believe that you will have wealthy alumni outside of the knowledge or control of school administrators, athletic directors, coaches, who they will use their ability to sign students to an NIL deal and say, my old high school won the state championship in 1995, and I'd like to see it happen again. So I'm going to go sign this kid from neighboring school A and neighboring school B, and I'm going to sign these kids to NIL contracts if you go to school C. And me as the wealthy alumni, I'm choosing where I want these kids to go. And so there's all kinds of issues here. And I think that we're heading down an uncontrollable path.
And I appreciate that you see both sides of the argument. And I think, just to emphasize that this, we're trying to protect the kids. I mean, these are kids. I graduated high school before I was 18. I turned 18 my freshman year in college. Mm-hmm. So all good points. You have gotten so many media requests about this topic. Why do you think that is the case?
Well, I think that's because people understand that this is icky. This is gross. And, the greatest team sport of all. Now, I know you've never played football. At least I don't think you have.
No,
You didn't play flag football?
I did take stats from my dad's team.
There you go.
Yeah, K through 80 coached at our
Yeah.
was the stat girl.
Yeah. So, in basketball, you can have a star take over, whether it's Michael Jordan or Larry Bird or Magic Johnson. But the greatest team sport of all, football. No one can be successful on their own. The quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver cannot be successful at the line and vice versa. And, the offense can't be successful unless the defense is successful and all of this. And so I can't even imagine what happens on a football team when people know that one player or two players or even three, are getting NIL money, maybe substantial NIL money. Maybe it's not fair. Maybe it's not been distributed evenly. And now maybe I'm not. I wanted to win a state championship, but now, I just don't care as much because I know so-and-so is getting this and I'm not. And, we're messing with the greatest team sport in the world.
Why do you think there's such a spotlight on football?
I think it's, you look at the viewing ratings.
Yeah.
They get they're some of the most viewed TV events, mm-hmm. and Americans love this sport for the reasons that I just mentioned. It's the greatest team sport, and speaking of that, NIL. We talked about that previously. Who's getting the NIL money in colleges? Predominantly, 90 to 95% of that money is going to male revenue-generating sports. And that should be a problem for us. And it's just not fair to put this on our grades 7 through 12 kids. Let's let the kids be kids. Let's protect their youth.
What would be your message to parents, schools, students, anyone anxious about NIL and this vote that happened with OHSAA? What would you say to them?
Well, I would say give the state legislature a chance to consider this issue. And right now we're not going to be in session for the next month, and we come back in 2026. We'll consider, we'll talk about it, we'll argue about it, and I've had a lot of favorable reaction to the introduction of this bill from my colleagues, and maybe not everybody wants to be be at the top charging up this hill, and I'm willing to do this because I feel that it's really important. But there's a lot of people that know in their heart that this is wrong. They know it. And so that's why I'm willing to take on this fight.
State Representative Adam Byrd, thank you so much.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk about such an important issue.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. Being a sports person myself, just so fascinating to think, the evolution of where we're at, especially in high school now. Quick shout out to our social media. You can follow us on the Ohio House GOP Caucus on Facebook, Ohio House_GOP on Instagram, and OHR GOP Caucus on Twitter. You can subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. State Representative Adam Byrd, thanks again.
It's an honor.